You are now listening to the Serious Growth Podcast with your host, Leo Costa Jr.
I love California. I spent some time in California. I had San Diego area.
Yeah.
I spent 8 years in the Marine Corps, so I was all over California. Okay. Camp Pendleton, Santa Onofre. All
Yeah. Did you get to travel quite a bit being in the Marine Corps?
I did 3 tours overseas.
Is that right?
Desert Storm. I'm giving my age here. I'm 58, so I did the whole Desert Storm, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
loved it.
And then what are you doing now? Are you still doing some stuff? Are you tired, or how's that work now for you?
No, I actually work for a computer networking company.
Okay. So
I am not a computer geek. I'm not like that. I'm kind of behind the scenes. So
okay.
Yeah, my background is kind of weird with the Marines because I also am an experienced skydiver and also a commercial pilot. So I was trying to get into that.
Yeah.
Didn't quite work out. So
well, you never know how life's going to work out.
Exactly.
That's part of the I don't know. I think it's all getting older is interesting. I'm 66, so I'm ahead of you a few years, and something I think that because I'm getting into the area now of being a personal life coach for people. Of course, I still do all the bodybuilding stuff, and I still, that's my first love. Yep. But as I'm getting a little bit older, it's like, okay, now how do we become and stay productive and competitive to a certain degree as we get older? And so much of this is I'm learning. And I think that this is ongoing and it's always learning. And I hope that always stays that way because I don't want to stop learning about life. But it's kind of like what you were just talking about. You kind of have to go with the flow, and you have to, in my opinion, you have to take a look at stuff that not necessarily that it's good and bad. It's just indifferent. And what are you going to do with it and go from there? Because life is always coming at you, right? Good and bad.
Right.
And if you're constantly responding to that, emotionally, and there's nothing wrong with being emotional, but when you're constantly responding to each and every one of those events, it can take you out, like health-wise.
Yeah, exactly. The Marine Corps kind of taught me that warrior mindset. It's like adapt and overcome, just keep pushing. Yeah. And set goals, don't give up. And that I've really taken to heart. So,
well, something, I think the Marine Corps and the military like that is, for me, that's what I got out of being an athlete most of my life. I started at the age of 8. And one of the things I didn't realize at that age, how could I? I was 8, was life lessons that I was learning already from being in sports. Because, as I look back, I'm thinking, okay, I was already learning about accountability and discipline. And that's a huge life lesson, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. I think the earlier that we learn that, the more it's going to serve us, as long as we keep, that in part of our life. And it's always been a part of my life because I've been in some form, way, shape, or form. I've been involved in athletics, and then bodybuilding was something that I got into after my sporting career. My more traditional football career was over. And I got to tell you something. I know did you ever train on any of our serious growth training manuals? I know you're doing Silverback.
I'm familiar with it. I'm familiar with it. I'm kind of I started out with high school football, and then the Marine Corps really got me into physical training. Yeah. After I got in the Marine Corps, I wanted to keep that going. So then I just started looking at the old bodybuilding magazines like Flex, Muscle and Fitness, took their routines and kind of adapted that. Just kind of kept going with that. But I tell you, I've just started the Silverback training, and it's kind of changed my mindset a little bit from what I'm used to, the big fear of overtraining and so on. And I just started it, and I could tell you, the results are already starting. It's great. I mean, the mindset and the motivation, I love it.
Well, the thing about it is, with your military background, it's like a match made in heaven, because the training courses, and that training course, in case I know we sent off a pamphlet and we kind of mentioned how Silverback came to be. It's actually an extension of what we did with our Big Beyond Belief training courses, our training course. And so it's, it's really based on that. It's kind of toned down a little bit because of the guys were a little bit older, but it still has that same ideology to it. But yeah, did you tie into the fact that with the overtraining that you're mentioning, that keeping it between 30 and 45 minutes is something. Was that something that was hard for you to grasp onto? Because I'm going to assume maybe that you were that guy that stayed in the gym for over an hour, maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah, I was in the beginning. I was, in there, and it seemed like it was quite a bit of time. It was over an hour. Then you're trying to get some cardio in there.
Yeah.
But the last couple of years, though, I have toned that back a little bit, just age-wise and time-wise, to try to get in there under an hour. And what I've noticed with the Silverback training, initially the first ramp, I'm doing it in about 35 minutes. So you got a good pace, and it took a little bit, to kind of get used to that. But then when I looked at the other things that you were talking about in the manual, it all kind of came together, and putting that together and then actually feeling the results. I mean, it's been like the first ramp, after that first week, getting used to it and changing that mindset a little bit. Yeah. Man, the motivation is it's like, I just want to kill it at the gym. It's just like,
and hopefully
and hit it hard and out.
There you go. And hopefully, that same feeling maintains itself, but it doesn't always. Look, to be honest with you, it's like anything else. It's like a honeymoon. When you first get married, there's a honeymoon phase. Okay. Yeah. And there's going to be a certain amount of that, even with this type of program. But a real key there is getting in and getting out. Get your work done and get out, because now it's virtually impossible to overtrain the physiology in 30 and 45 minutes. And that's one of the big things I learned in Bulgaria, because hell, those athletes were training 5 times a day. Now they're training for strength, but their training sessions lasted anywhere from 20 to 30, 35 minutes. And I asked them, I was like, how can you guys train like this 5 times a day? And that's when they told me, it's virtually impossible to overtrain the physiology. So if you think about this in a more rational, objective manner, if you aren't overtraining it to begin with, what's the problem? It's then getting over that in your head, wrapping that around your head, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And knowing, and that's where the bodybuilding mentality, at least that's in part with our sport, is it forces you, if you become a student of the game, it forces you to understand things to the minute, to the nth degree. And then when you can, I don't know about you, but when I understand it, like the why of it, it's like, okay, physiologically, it's impossible to overtrain. So I don't have to worry about that anymore.
All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you about our product.
Do you want a bone-crushing grip? Good, because you're going to get one with the amazing new Trs Gripper. It's a progressive grip builder with longer handles and a special ergonomic design that's like a dozen hand grippers in one. Start off easy and work your way up to quickly build your grip strength from wet noodle to pulverizing. The package includes a video from the world-famous strength coach, Dr. Russ Horine, the man who worked with Leo Costa to help bring you big beyond belief in the Bulgarian Power Burst. Dr. Horine shows you a simple and easy to follow workout plan that takes just minutes a day right from in front of your TV set if you want. So click on the link below and let's get started building you a stronger, firmer, bone-crushing grip.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. It's once the initial fear was like, oh, I'm not going to train enough, or I'm going to overtrain. And when the behind the scenes of why you're doing what you're doing made sense to me, and it just kind of clicked. And it's like, you know what, and going and hitting the gym in these shorter workouts, but I'm focusing on every damn rep, every single rep, every exercise to the max. And I tell you what, I feel it more in that 35 minutes than I have probably in the past 2 or 3 years when I'm in there for an hour. And I just get in there. I'm like laser focused. I'm in there. I'm not in there to chit chat, Right. I'm there to work out. I'm in there and out. If I want to chit chat, it'll be after, but I'm there. It's like damn business.
Well, and it has to be like that, because I talk about one of the reasons why people don't make the results they're looking for is because they're wasting time, and they're making mistakes, and they're wasting energy. And that's a major difference in the way that you're going about your business in the gym now. It's like, I mean, when the Bulgarians told me at that time when I was training, when I was there in 82, I was that guy an hour and a half or 2 hours in the gym. And when they said 30 to 45 minutes, I'm thinking, oh, hell no, all the work that I'm doing. But you know what? I had to buy into that. And that's part of it too, is you have to buy into change, because if you don't fully buy into that, you're not really committed. And how can you possibly make a good analogy of something working if you didn't buy all the way into it? I mean, at some point you have to commit to that. And you did that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'll tell you what, I said, I'm going to go home and just going to do it. And son of a gun, if I didn't get a lot more efficient, what you're saying to me is exactly what happened to me when I came back. And when they said that to me, I thought, okay, now when I go into the gym, it's a whole different ball game. And that has always been the way that I approach things in the gym now. And, depending on, do you have your own home gym or do you go to one?
I go to one. We've got a Gold's Gym here. I hit that. Like today, it's 5 degrees out. Sometimes I'll like say, screw it, I'm going to go to the gym anyway. But I got some weights here. I got a Bowflex dumbbell sets. But I like that energy from a gym.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And the funny thing about that energy, I like the energy, but I don't like anybody messing, like getting in my space when I'm in that 30 to 45 minutes. I'm still training the same way. And I can tell you that sometimes it actually puts people off, because it's like you're kind of, you give, at least I do, I give that little air that, don't talk to me when I'm in this moment. Okay. Yeah. When I'm done, I'm a different person, I think. But when I'm in that moment, it's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
Otherwise I can't really get all the stuff done that I need to, and that's the way it should be when you go to the gym.
Yeah. What kind of irks me the most is like I was saying, I'm laser focused, and I'm concentrating on each exercise, every single rep. I put everything into it. Yeah. And what really irks me sometimes is, I'm sure everybody that's went to the gym, is there's a couple of bench, and you're wanting to do a bench press, but somebody's not they're using it, but they're just sitting on it. They're not working. And it's like the time it takes you to do whatever you're doing on your cell phone, I could have had my 3 or 4. Oh yeah. And that just drives me insane.
I know. I know, it's the same way. I have a personal training studio, and I don't do any, I mean, I work with 1 or 2 people early in the morning, and they know that they're in my hour, that I'm training myself, and they're fine being in that hour. They're kind of like my training partners now. Right. And even with having a trainer in there, I've told my trainer, I said, look, when I'm training in here, make sure that you're watching out where I'm going, because I don't want to get stopped up by people that are on the, I mean, it sounds kind of like, like I'm full of myself on that, but it's just really important. And that's one thing that's really important, I think, for you to be in your environment like that, because I've trained in those environments. You almost have to plan a sort of a maybe, okay, if somebody's on that bench, what am I going to go to? And have that little bit of flexibility, because that's the thing that drove me crazy as a personal trainer. When I first started, I was actually working around other people. I didn't have my own facility, my own studio. Right. And to go into these big health clubs, it's hard to control that environment. Yeah. So when I was on because I trained my clients with tempo, and I had a certain, I did these micro circuits with them. Well, hell, somebody could be sitting or going to an area that I was going to go to, it would throw the whole thing off. Yep. And then what that does is up here, it scrambles you just a little bit. So I like to have a sort of a backup, maybe that helps you or not, but I like to have I kind of, depending on how busy the gym is, I'm kind of looking out where, okay, this is where I'm training these body parts, but I need a backup just in case, so I can keep moving. Yeah. And I have done that. It's where, I'm focused on doing like a flat bench press. All the benches are taken. Yeah. But there's a Smith machine that isn't, and I'll hit that, and it's fine. It's this, it kind of throws you off a little bit in the moment, but But I'll tell you what.
Another thing is maybe, I've been kind of experimenting on, well, maybe there's a different time to go to the gym where it's not, so.
Yeah. And the thing that you can actually use, because look, the program that you're on is not a pure strength program. So understanding that is knowing that your exercise order is not hugely important. It's important, but because listen, bodybuilding is more about volume, more reps than lifting the weight, heavy weight. Even though that there's a part of your program as far as the macro, you should do a little bit of the heavier, but it's always based on volume, meaning that at the end of the workout, there's X amount of repetitions that you're doing. That's kind of where I'm at these days, is focusing on the repetitions. Yes, the exercise too. So for example, if I was doing a bench press and maybe somebody was on that bench press, and what I would do is in between, kind of like a superset, is I would just go do like a fly, and maybe if I'm doing 8 reps or so, trying to solve problems here with you. If I'm doing 8 or so repetitions and I did that, and I'm resting 35 to 40 seconds or whatever that is, and somebody in the meantime went to that bench because they just didn't see me doing it, I might just go over to a pec deck and do a pre-exhaust and do 15 repetitions and then come back and do that bench press. Gotcha. Because it's not about doing as much weight as you possibly can. If it was, you couldn't do that, right?
Right.
And yet
exactly.
Bodybuilding is all about lots of reps, anyway, that's kind of like the way you can solve some of those problems. But let me ask you this, because this is really something that especially males have an issue with, because we're kind of like that. The most important thing that you're mentioning is that you like to feel everything that you're training. How much does the amount of weight influence you as it relates to that? In other words, are you hell-bent on doing a certain amount of weight each set for the same reps and feeling that, or how do you, because your body gets tired in different ways?
No, I'm more of, I've done some where I go heavy, and you could probably explain it obviously better than I could. Sometimes I have a hard time actually feeling the muscle. But if I back down the weight, do more reps, I get a great pump. I actually feel the muscle, and I think it's that concentration of being able to actually feel that muscle that you're using, almost like you're isolating it. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's other muscles that are working, like on the bench, you're using triceps and shoulders. But I'm not concerned of, and you see it at the gym, guys will be competing how much they can lift.
Right.
But at the same time, you'll see them. Yeah, you're doing a curl, but you're actually working your back more because you're lifting so heavy. And just with my low back injuries and stuff, I have to be real cognizant of that. So I would say I'm more, like you said, the volume, not so much strength wise, how much I can lift. Yeah. I want to be able to feel the muscle. I feel good at that point. If I'm feeling I got a good pump in the muscle I'm working, I'm happy.
Yeah, and you know something, and that's actually a major key, and you're focusing in on that, is that it's about feeling what you're training. Even if, because I've done some, back in the day, I trained with Tom Platz. Have you heard of that guy?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you bet.
Who hasn't? And one of the things I learned from him was that it's not necessarily having the perfect form as much as about feeling the muscle when you're training it. Because what you'll find is that, we're all built differently as far as lever systems that we have. Some of us have longer arm, that kind of thing. So you can't tell everybody to do that exercise, in the exact same way and think that they're all going to feel it the same way. And that's a very important distinction. And that's what I learned from Platz. It was like, okay, the muscle doesn't know how many reps you're doing. What it really knows is how it's being exhausted and how it's recovering from that particular set that you're doing. That's very important to really understand, because I'll go into the gym now because, the more experience you have, the more you trust that process. It's hard to do that when you're first learning stuff. I understand that. But the way that I train my body now is all by feel. The exercises that I have planned out for me are just sort of it's not in stone. It's the proposed exercise I'm going to do. I'm going to train this body part today. So how do I get to that point every single time where I feel that might be one day I come in and do three sets of flat bench for 8 reps. And the next time I do that, I don't feel it. I have to make a change at that point.
Okay.
Not force it and say, okay, because some guys do. It's like, I'm not feeling it today, but I'm gonna force it anyway. I understand that mindset, but you have to be smart enough to say, wait. I'm sacrificing how the muscle is being trained. At that point, you're weightlifting. There's a difference there. So you just got to be, you got to keep thinking and saying, okay, I'm not really feeling this for some reason today. What do I have to do to feel that? Lighten the weight, change the hand spacing. Hey, look, there's a different ways to get to volume. For example, you can do 2 sets of 8, okay, that's 16 reps, or you can do 4 sets of 4, and you're still getting to those 16 reps. There's a lot of ways to get the volume. It's up to you to just think, okay, I kind of feel that, whatever that means today. Okay, after 4 or 5, 6 reps, I'm failing. Lighten the weight, or just do what I say. I'll just do 8 sets of 4, 32 reps.
That's really good, because it seems like sometimes I'll get into where I'm set on a certain number of reps, where on some days, just like you mentioned, I may not feel it as much, but I've been, that's good. I'm gonna have to try that, because I'll start feeling like I'm so focused on, okay, I'm doing 8 to 10 reps at this weight, and I'm looking at the rep range, not so much as the weight. But if after the second set I'm not feeling it, well, then I should make a change then. And I think that I'm going to try that, because I end up getting stuck with, well, I got 2 more sets to do, 8 to 10, and then I end up with, well, I felt it, but not as much as 2 days ago, where I should be catching that earlier and then making the change earlier.
Exactly. And the thing is, like I said, unless you're been in the gym for 1,000 years, like I've been in, and done all these reps, it's hard to trust that, because you feel like then you have that side of you. I'll speak for myself. Okay, I have a very strong mindset and a will. I'm just going to will this, and I'm just going to make it. But I didn't really feel it at the end of the day, if I'm being really honest. Right. Instead of going, okay, today I'm just not feeling it, I'm just going to do I call audible, or modify on the fly. And still get that muscle pumped and worked, but I still believe in, there's a core group of exercises that you always go to. You learn that longer in the gym. When I first started, I did all kinds of exercises to find out that I really only have a core group, maybe 5 or 6 exercises that I do with, in different body parts that always work for me. Then it's up to me not to look for other ones, just to now take those right there. And there's a lot of there are a lot of options and variables that you can create inside that small group, and you're better off that way.
What do you recommend on, obviously, silverbacks that are older and may have some old injuries like mine? I mentioned my lower back, so I have to be real cognizant of trying to do any type of heavy free weight squatting. Is there would it be better then, is like we said, don't focus on the weight, just go lighter, more reps, maybe less rest, but still stick to a squat, or try to, because I really don't know what would be a good substitute than the squat. I don't think there is.
Well, no, there isn't, because they call it the king of all exercises for a reason, because what it does is it recruits all like half of your muscles in your body are recruited during a squat. You're absolutely right. I will tell you that the squat is one of the safer exercises that you can do when you compare it to a leg press, for sure, and even leg extension. There's actually, and yet knowing that you have a back injury, to answer your question specifically, I would kick your rep ranges really much higher. Like what I'll do a lot of times is I'll actually start with, some people start with the lower rep range, and they kind of build up a little bit. And I'm not saying that I don't do that, but I also, and I think that I would suggest that you do this, is have the weight really light. And I'm not saying that you can't utilize a Smith machine in this case, because you can. because I don't want you to get hurt. But if you're doing light enough weight, I would just say to you, the first 2 sets that you do the next time you go squat, do 2 sets of 20, and then kick it down, and then do reps of 8 or 10. Okay. But nothing. You should be able to do 2 or 3 more reps when you are finished. You don't have to go to absolute failure every single time. It's not necessary. You should have 2 or 3 left in the tank. Walk away from it. Concentrate on those 8 or 10 reps. Concentrate on those, and to feel every inch of the way. Make that your goal, like you're doing. And if that means like the next set that you do, you got to lighten it up. Go for the feeling and the pump, if you will.
Okay.
I think that's just a lot smarter to do, and still keep in mind that there's some I like to do a lot of compound sets if I can. It's 60 to 70% of my training, and then machines. I fill in with machines and cables. So I kind of keep that as a sort of my working template, generally speaking, but I got to feel when I'm training every single time. Otherwise I know I didn't get what I should have.
Okay.
So kind of keep that in mind, and see how that works for you. Now, one of the things that you mentioned, listen, getting older, we have to make adjustments. And I'm really big on, in fact, I'm actually got to know you through a questionnaire that you filled out. And one of the, I believe now, especially now, that it's you got to focus on from the inside out. In other words, you have to make sure, and I wish I would have done this when I was younger, but I'm doing it now, and that's fine, is I need to find out, and we all need to find out how strong potentially our immune system is and how exposed it is. And that was you filled out that questionnaire. And the reason why we had a phone call is because, what you filled out, I called you, I told you, congratulations. I don't think I can help you. It was that good, but that's really important. And yet, even with that being said, we're on this phone call today because we found areas that we can get better on, right?
Yeah, there's definitely, yeah. And
but I still think it starts right there for those people that are listening to this, from the inside out. And not what I mean by that specifically is you can answer a questionnaire, have lab work done to find out what's going on the inside. Okay. And then you work from there, because it's like building a foundation. Think of it this way, and maybe you agree, is if you build a foundation that's weak, what the hell, everything else is going to be on shaky ground.
Right.
And yet, for those of you that are out there, I just had a client this morning that I've known this person for quite some time. I said, look, it's a process. And this is what people don't want to, it takes time. It takes time to build that strong foundation. And yet human nature, especially in today's world with all these shiny objects that are out there, people are so hung up on the shiny object, they forget on building the inside part of themselves really strong before they take the next move. I mean, you can do more than one thing, but you got to focus on the inside first.
And that was actually good timing, because I literally had my blood work and everything done like 2 weeks prior to when you posted that out on the questionnaire, and I'm like, well, that's good timing.
Yeah.
So
and then from there, you start, okay, I'm all good here, or this is because so many people, Brian, and I'm that person, especially as you get older, or if you're that person that's an athlete, your body's constantly dealing with inflammation. And that's a big reason why most people hurt and they ache. It's because of inflammation. Aside from the fact that maybe you pull a muscle here and there, it usually has to do with some inflammation. I got to tell you something. I have a tool that I use, and I would have thought before I bought it that it was going to be more hype than actually worked, because a lot of things are. I have a situation right now with my thumb, and I can hardly, at times, there's so much, if I put a bar in my hand, there's so much pain there. And it's just, I thought, okay, this is inflammation, I'm thinking. Have you heard of the Theragun?
I have not.
It's that, what do they call that? It's like a massager that's repercussion.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Ronaldo Cristiano, among other athletes, use that in a commercial. And I got to tell you something. I have to say, it's amazing to me. I have issues with my knee sometimes from an old injury that inflames. And you can tell, like when you have inflammation, like like in my knee, it's like feels like a thickness. You don't have really good range of motion. That's usually an indication that you have inflammation or that it's just hurting. But I got to tell you something. Every time I put that Theragun on the area, it immediately makes it better. It takes the inflammation away. Immediately, it makes it better. When I was in Bulgaria, here's how they dealt with inflammation. They would, like, if you had like tendonitis in your shoulder, what they would tell you to do is, and this can apply anywhere on your body, think of it that way, but like on your shoulder, they said, just press really hard right there. There's a where you get tendonitis, a tendon right here that's inflamed. It sits in a little gully. So when it gets inflamed, it hops over that gully because it normally sits in that gully. And they said, just do pressure point, count to 3 and press as hard as you can, then let off. Do that 4 or 5 times. And what they were telling me is that gets rid of the inflammation, that blows up that inflammation. That's exactly what that gun does. And the thing about it, it's immediate. You get immediate relief. If you can figure out how to do things like that, like little tricks like that, and like in your diet, making sure that you take, in my opinion, you need to take turmeric, you need to take fish oil, you need to take beetroot powder. Those all make your body more efficient, and it helps you recover. And you're only as good as your recovery and what's going on the inside.
Yep. And that's when we talked about that. It's like, I know because you mentioned the 3 things that got to be in sync. Obviously, your training, cardio, and nutrition.
Right.
My weak link after we had talked was nutrition. So I got on board with the meal plans, which I've just started this week. And looking forward to that, because I think that's really, for me, trying to gain. It's just been a struggle all the time. I can fluctuate, but nowhere near what I want to be. So it's
and what the 3 areas that you're talking about, we call this the 3 components. Those 3 components are always present in every single. It applies to every single person, whether you're that person who is an athlete or that person who just wants to create better endurance. Those components are always in play. And what you had, and you and I had this, conversation before, is if you leave even one of those components out, you're compromising overall benefit. And yet I don't believe necessarily that all 3 components are equal. I know some people say that diet is 95% of a program. I disagree with that. And how I use the example is I say, okay, try doing this with just diet and not training, weight training in this case, is try going on a perfect diet, that'll put muscle on your body, and see how efficient you are doing that without doing weight training. On the other hand, you could be on a kind of a crappy diet, but if you're on a training program, you're going to put on muscle even with the crappy diet. But the point is, if you line those things up, if you do just the right amount of training, weight training, just enough cardio, and you're using these as tools, and of course your nutrition, put them all together, boomba, you're going to get a compound effect. Look, we're all hard gainers. Some of us are more hard gainers than others, but we're all hard gainers. It doesn't come easy.
Yeah.
And so I'm really looking forward to how you respond, because we're now, it sounds like what we're doing now is at least incorporating 2 of the 3 components. Is that right? Or are you doing cardio?
Cardio is, I do minimal, because I don't know if I think because I tend to burn more calories. I'm assuming you might have a recommendation for that, as far as somebody that has more problem gaining the mass and now has the nutrition lined up. Does the cardio now need to be more focused, or, because I'll do it 2 to 3 times a week on cardio, but it's very minimal.
So when you say minimal, what exactly does that mean? What first of all, what kind of cardio, and how much time are you putting in those 3 days a week?
Typically I will do jumping rope at a steady pace, and I'll do basically like a boxer set, 3-minute rounds with a minute rest in between. I'll do 2 to 3 sets of those, typically after the workout. Sometimes I'll do a set or 2 before the workout to kind of loosen up and then hit the gym.
Okay, so here's my suggestion and recommendation for you. Keep in mind, my focus for you is putting on muscle. Okay, That's my focus, because I think that's what I'm hearing from you.
That's mine too.
Okay, so just so we're on that same page. That being said, the jump rope and the stuff that you're doing for cardio, kill it. It's
Okay.
what it's doing is it's actually taking away from your body. You're not really, it's more high impact cardio. It would be the same thing as if I was running on a treadmill. What you'll realize about bodybuilders that they normally, all of them do, is that it's very low impact. It's not harder you go. It's not that. Okay. So here's what I would do if I were you. I would do a bicycle, and it doesn't matter if it's stationary or otherwise. An elliptical, those would be my go-to right there. Bicycle, and you can do a recumbent bike. It's still a bicycle, okay, or an upright bike. But I would do that. I would make sure that your heart rate, that you're doing about 70 to 75% of your maximum heart rate.
Okay.
Okay. Because that way you're not you don't want to put a lot of extra stress on your body in the wrong way. And yet cardio is important because it helps you speed the recovery up. So you need to do the cardio. In your case, you're right. You don't need to do a lot of it. I would say 3 times a week, no more than 25 minutes.
Okay.
Low impact. And I understand, but people say, but I love to run. I love to box. Okay. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but I'm purely speaking of putting on muscle mass in the most efficient way.
Okay. I've done the stationary bike at the gym as a warm up to when I was before on doing the Silverback training, when it was a leg day and doing squats. I would do 10 to 15 minutes, a low intensity, but on a stationary bike.
Yes.
To warm up. So I don't just hit squats, cold. Yeah. So yeah, I'm used to that. I like stationary bikes. So that's not a big change really.
And again, like I said, if it's the boxing and that kind of stuff is stuff that you like to do, I'm not telling you not to do that, but in terms of making yourself the most efficient, and that's what we're trying to do to put on muscle, go to some really low impact type stuff. Are you paying attention to your heart rate when you're doing cardio?
I do. Yeah, okay. I do.
So the formula, they usually have charts in these gyms where your heart rate needs to be.
Yeah, it's for mine, it's for the cardio, and they've got different one where high intensity and you got cardio, different ranges. It's no more than 145 each.
Yeah.
The formula, with the jump rope, I was hitting 120, 125.
Right. So your heart rate wasn't getting too high. It's just that from that bouncing up and down, that's hard on muscle when you're trying to keep it on.
Okay.
That's for sure. And normally there's a really easy formula. It's 220, the number 220 minus your age. Right. You know that one. And then you just multiply it by 70%, and there's your number, 65 to 70%, even 75%. And that's all you need to do. Keep it really simple. And I'll give you something else to think about. And it's not something that you do overnight. You teach your body what you want it to do. And this is what I learned from the Bulgarians when they said, warming up is a waste of time and it's a waste of energy. And that one really got me. I'm thinking, wait a minute, you gotta be kidding me. Because normally in those days, what we did is we do like 2 or 3 warm-up sets before we get to what we call the working sets. And they told me, you're wasting energy. You teach your body, it's responding, it's doing exactly what you want it to do. If you're teaching it to warm up, then that's going to do that. So you don't want to go from warming up, in this case, to all of a sudden just going full blown and doing your squats. I'm not saying that either. Now, because it takes 21 days for your body to adapt to a new training regimen, if I was you and I told you stop warming up, I would take 3 weeks where I started just tailoring down to where it's not so abrupt, because your body has fully adapted to whatever you're doing currently. So you got to keep that in mind. Again, another little thing. We're always looking for little things to find out to take that wasted energy and minimize those mistakes. I'm telling you, in the pure sense of putting on muscle weight, those are some of the things that you can start honing in on. Not overnight, but it's just you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Those are a couple of things for you to think about. Wrap your head around it before maybe you actually commit to doing that.
So the cardio, do you recommend a separate session for cardio, or the same day as a workout, or?
Well, yeah, because your cardio is a different energy system in your body. You have anaerobic energy,
Yep.
State, and then you have aerobic. Those are two separate. So one doesn't bother the other when you do them together.
Okay.
It doesn't. Your aerobic does not tax the anaerobic energy system. It doesn't.
Okay.
Unless you're that person who has the mindset, and a lot of us do. And I see it all the time where they have the mindset of more is better, harder is better. So here's what happens to that person that's doing cardio with that mindset. So you understand what the physiology does. And maybe you already know your body, if you get your heart rate too high, your body flips over from aerobic to anaerobic. Aerobic is where you're exercising at a pace to where your body can, you still utilize oxygen to burn energy. When you're anaerobically training, you're doing more exercise than your body can keep up with. Now your body is burning sugar as energy. That's the same energy that you're using when you're weight training. So you're thinking that you're doing cardio because you're going harder, and yet you're in an anaerobic state. You're in the same state as when you're doing weight training. Do you see that mistake?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's the reason why heart rate is huge. It's important when you're doing cardio, and it doesn't, like I said, and now in that sense, those are two different states. You could do 30 to 45 minutes of weight training and do 30 minutes of cardio all in the same session. It won't impact you in a negative way.
Okay.
Little mistakes like that we make.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it.
Tightens it up just a little bit more. That's what it's all about. So now, as far as your nutrition, now we've got you on a diet you're taking about 1 gram of protein for 1 pound of body weight.
1.5.
1.5. That's good.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I learned when I was over in Bulgaria, they were 8 years ahead of us, Brian, because they thought outside the box. They didn't let information influence them necessarily, because they thought the way they looked at it was that, especially in the West, meaning they were referring to me coming from where I came from, said you guys have a tendency of doing theory first and then application second. And they did just the opposite of that. They did application, and then they went to people that did theory and said, okay, we know this works. Now you tell us why, instead of this should work. You see the difference in that?
Yeah.
And what that did for them was it allowed them to think outside the box. And it's just thinking about things in a different way, like you're doing right now, going to the Silverback. It's making you think in a whole different way. The same way, if you think about that, all that does is they said, look, we go to the gym and we need to know what the stated goal is. And in their case, it was to develop the strongest man in the world. That was the stated goal. Your stated goal is put on muscle. Now, when they went into the gym, they said, here's how we see those, the exercise equipment. We see those as tools that we're going to use to develop the strongest man in the world. That's how that all of a sudden almost gave them, allowed them to try different things to get a result. Kind of the same way that you and I are talking about. And we're saying, look, if you're not feeling it that day, call an audible, because you need to feel what you're training, especially in bodybuilding. The strength athlete, not so much. They're just about, getting that damn weight up and being mechanically and technically sound to get that weight up, because to get that kind of weight up, it's not raw strength. There's a lot of technique involved. You probably know that.
Right. Yeah.
But the point is, they were using that it's application first and then theory second, outside of the box thinking. Brian, don't ever stop having that mindset. Okay. Never stop thinking outside the box, but I'm not saying that you should do that before you make sure that whatever you're doing and creating your foundation initially, make sure that you spend a great amount of time before you start going off and adding a whole bunch of things, because that can get tricky.
Right.
Just think of it like you're building a house. You put the foundation down first, you erect the walls, and then you put the roof. It's kind of the same way when you're doing your training. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I'm going to try this and just see if this angle, because angles are make a big difference as far as how you feel something. Have you experienced that in your training?
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I probably mentioned it before, but I'm totally open to new ideas, new concepts. I'm not I got to do it this way every single time. I am not afraid to do something totally new.
Yeah.
That may not even actually be new. It's just a way of thinking of how to do it.
Yeah.
It's like you said, getting rid of that wasted energy, like the warm-up sets. Okay.
Right.
Do I really need warm-up sets? Maybe I can just, go and hit it,
Well, and the thing, like I said, if you were doing like 20 minutes of warm up, just as an example, the way that I would pare down is then I'd start doing like 10 or 15 minutes of warm up. And I do that. I always think of different rules. Your physiology, when you're doing a regimen, it's called the 21-day rule. It's not uncommon, but that's how long it takes for your body to start adapting to a regimen. So just think of that. If you're doing any kind of a regimen thing, if you're going to make changes, then you want to think, like, especially like going from warming up to not warming up, take your time and paring yourself down. Take 21 days and just slowly work your way down. As you're working your way down, then you're doing less warm up and you're getting more into the now the working set right off the bat. So just the point is, make it a slow transition, and that way you'll minimize injuries and it'll be seamless at that point. Don't get in a hurry, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I'm already actually at where pretty much I'm only doing really, except for legs. I'll do 2, what I would say warm-ups, but like on the bench, I'll do basically 1 warm-up because my mindset, even from them, which kind of ties in actually what you're just saying, is I feel like now that's going to take away from when I'm actually doing the working sets.
Right.
So
Right.
I just want to kind of get in there and hit it. But with legs and with my lower back,
Right.
I'm doing weight squats. I kind of don't want to just, but you got me thinking of doing, okay, don't go so heavy, do lighter weight, more reps. And
yeah. And think of it this way, that 20 reps that I'm suggesting that you do in that one example, that is if you want to think of it, it's kind of like almost like a warm-up set, but it's not, because you're doing enough to where you're exhausting the muscle. So it's kind of like a warm-up set, but it's not a pure warm-up set. You're that first set, it's like you're feeling the burn and feeling the pain without hurting yourself, obviously. So I think you're smart enough to figure that out when it comes to because there's nothing worse. I don't like being hurt ever anymore, because I'm still dealing with stupid stuff like this, where just because over time, things are going to hurt. That's just part of training. That's just something we have to deal with, right?
Yeah, I sometimes I'll have like knee inflammation. I got my right elbow sometimes, but I just I look at it as there's pain, but then there's injury.
That's
and
right.
I don't mind pushing through a little bit of pain,
right.
And I know that difference where, okay, I'm getting to the point where I might injure something.
Right.
So but as far as, what people would think probably as just that muscle soreness, I'll plow through that. I just keep going.
And all that muscle soreness is actually, it's not, I tell people all the time, getting sore after a workout is not an indication of a good workout. All that is just your body is adapting to something new that you've done, and it builds up that, and that soreness is not really, like I said, it's not an indicator, so you don't have to wait till it goes away. The point is, you just keep training, because what your body learns to do is it takes that it's lactic acid or some form of acid. So what it does eventually, when you keep teaching it to deal with that, in other words, you're not waiting before you're not getting sore, because then you do, if you just wait till you're not sore and then do the exercises again, you're going to have that same sort of response. Okay, I'm going to wait till I'm not sore, and but if you're powering through that, your body will eventually start using that and converting that into energy that you can use during the workout. It'll start understanding, identifying that it's something that they can do something with that. It keeps adapting to its environment. So you're right on the money with that. It'll be very useful energy. So that soreness is just energy just being waiting. It's your body just waiting to convert it and use it for positive energy. So that's good.
Because the way I was looking at that is like, well, if I wait until I'm not sore, that could be 2-3 days.
That's right.
It's like, well, then I just waste, and it's like, okay, am I so crippled that I can't lift? No.
Right.
So it's like, well, get the freak back in the gym.
Well, and the thing about that, a lot of the guys in the industry, bodybuilders, a few years back, they probably still do that. They thought, because of what you're saying, they said, no, just train your one body part once every 4 days. That's bullcrap. If you want to put on size, you need to temporarily irritate the muscle. not to the point where it gets hurt. And this is the reason why if you just train 30 to 45 minutes, you can train a muscle every single day if you wanted to, because you're never overtraining it. But their mindset was like once every 4 days, because this, well, yeah, when you're training 1 or 2 hours a day, you're going to have to take longer to recover. Okay, I understand that, but we're getting around all that stuff, by just keeping your time much less. That's good. Listen, you're doing more things right. Now it's just getting better at what you're doing. So I think that in this, hopefully, in our little talk today, we've kind of given you some tools maybe to sharpen up and tighten up your workout. And obviously, I'm going to be communicating with you on the back end here and the stuff that you're doing, because I always see the stuff that's going on with you. And I'm going to tell you something with your diet as we're going along here, because you're really just new getting into that side of it. You'll be surprised at what we can do with diet to force your body to, we'll trick it in a really great way to force it to, we can almost do at will what we want. If you want to pull a little body fat off, there's certain techniques that we can use with ramping and the way we are cutting and adding calories and cardio. We can just keep making you more efficient. And I also want to make sure that part of that process too, of putting on more sizes, there'll be times temporarily that you don't want to look exactly that you've got envisioned. And that's also part of the process. Sometimes you got to look a certain way. It's kind of like, having a long-term goal, but at the short term, you don't really look like you're in your mind's eye that you want to look like maybe at the long term. And that's another reason why a lot of the people that get into the industry, they can't handle that. They just can't handle that process.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward, like I said, I just literally started this week, the nutrition plan, and I'm excited about it. I'm finally got an actual game plan instead of just kind of haphazardly trying to do it on my own. And you look at some of the old bodybuilding magazines and what they ate, and it's like 8,000 calories, 9,000 calories, and it's like that's all they're doing is eating all that.
Yeah.
And gotta be a better way. So
and look, I'm not to say that we didn't eat that many calories, because at one time when I was at 310 in my off season, it was like a full-time job to eat. It was kind of disgusting, to be quite frank with you, but it didn't matter, because that kind of came with what we had to do in order to get that to that point. Right. That, obviously you're not at that point just yet, and you probably don't ever want to be, and that's okay too. But that doesn't mean that we just can't. It's a step-by-step process. Embrace the little steps that we're taking. Embrace all those things. So I think it's important, because sometimes I talk to people lots of times. I say, as it relates to bodybuilding, this becomes at times very monotonous, because you're pounding and we're making nuanced changes, not drastic changes, not for bodybuilding, but you have to be willing to tolerate that side of it to come out the other end and say, okay, this is how you do it. That's where I'm at with you, hopefully, and I know I will. We'll shorten the learning curve. But what I want you to do, and the reason why I had you on, is I want us to create continuous dialogue for the people that are listening to this. It's important for them to see what's going on, to hear from somebody now that's on that side and where you're at. And let's talk about that. One of the things I liked about Bulgarians is they were very open about passing the information forward. They weren't the type of people that, like the Russians were, where they wanted to hide all the information. In fact, when we went there, they took the Russians. I was in Russia and Bulgaria and Czechoslovakia on one of my tours. Well, when the Russians knew that we were in the area, they took their athletes 2 hours away. They did not want to share information with us, where the Bulgarians were like an open book. And they said, look, by the time you get back to the States, we'll be on to something brand new. It doesn't matter. We'll create faster than you can copy, basically. So I'm trying to create a situation here for the serious growthers, is tie into the experiences of Brian and what's going on, and some of the things that don't work, or some of the things that you've discovered. I don't know everything. I just know stuff because I've been in so long, but that doesn't mean we all can't learn. So I would hope that at some point, you say, hey, can I come back on? I got some exciting stuff to share. I'm all for that.
I'm hoping that your meal plan for 3 months. So I want to see where, at 3 months, maybe that'd be a good time to say, hey, so these are the steps I did. Here's the diet that I followed. And,
there you go. And then it's really important. And hopefully you're getting that sense from, and you will, when you're working with us, that we're always engaging with you. We want to know what's going on, because we can fix things. Don't hesitate. In other words, to say, hey, this is not really working for me, because there's a lot of fixes. It's like you can't put everybody on the same workout that Arnold Schwarzenegger did and think you're going to get the same response.
Yeah.
And but that doesn't mean there's a lot of adjustments that we can make to tailor just exactly for you. And that's the whole point of this thing.
That's what I'm looking forward to. It's that in-depth, more just the things I've learned just on this podcast already. To I get very goal-oriented, and I like to put things to work and see the response. So
yeah. And then the other thing that you want to do with your training is always make sure the more that you can document what you're doing. And this is part of the stuff that we do, like with our online training, when people get onto that one, is that we're constantly, I call it, it's called daily repetition. It's a form that I use so I know exactly what I'm doing in each training session, because that gives me a snapshot over time. So I can say, okay, based on the fact that your goal is bodybuilding, volume is real key. I have this amount of time that you should be putting in. It just gives us a chance to make sure that every single session is productive. So if nothing else, document what you're doing and use that as a tool. Use it to look back at, not to obsess with, but look at what you've done back here and take the information that you need and keep moving it forward. And that's part of, Tom Platz taught me that when I was first got into the sport, because I didn't write everything down. I thought to myself, oh, hell, I can remember. I didn't document. And he said, document everything. I mean, he was real anal about that stuff, and he was right. And that's where, like, now doing this online training, where I adopted that philosophy, because I understand now exactly. And of course I understood that as I was competing more over the years. It's like, I don't have time to waste. And if I can tie in anything, any bits of information that I can make immediate adjustment, that's part of the key.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I want you to go out and kick some ass over the next few days, and then please reach out. Is there anything that you maybe you'd like to ask, or something that maybe I haven't addressed on this podcast today?
No, covered quite a bit, actually. It's I soak information like a sponge half time. So I'm, I get excited about using the info and trying stuff out. And
okay.
Like I said, I'm excited about the nutrition plan, because I know that was a weak link for me. So that's putting all that together. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the next, like I said, the meal plan for 3 months. So I'm excited.
So are we, believe me. Like I still get fired up about this stuff, and I'm in it now 40 years. And I'm 66 years of age. And one of the things I want, Brian, for myself, especially at this age, I still want to be competitive. I still have that fire that's burning. Now, that doesn't mean that I want to get up on stage and compete. Hell no, I don't want to do that anymore. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to be in the gym, and I want to feel like I'm competitive, and I want my body to respond to that. And guess what? It's doing that. I'm getting results now, because you never know until you get to different ages. I never thought that I could feel this good. And as a male who is getting older, we want to feel good everywhere, inside and out, if you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
And what I can tell you, it's possible, baby. And it's exciting. But
it is.
But like anything else, it just doesn't happen.
It is. Yeah. It's like the Silverback training. It's like I've been feeling it and just overall better, more motivation than in probably the past 2 years of doing the old, almost like you said, one body part every 3 days. It's like, why am I doing that when I've been doing that for 2 years, and it's like still the same results? It's like,
it's kind of like keep banging your head up against the wall, think the ball's going to move.
Exactly.
I mean, I've done it, so I know it's not sometimes. Just a little side note: if you, because as we get older, after the age of 30, we start losing our testosterone production 1% every year. If you ever have you had that checked before in your blood work? Did you have all that checked?
I have not actually had the testosterone check.
I would the next time you go do some blood work, I would highly recommend that you do that. because if you get that squared away, you'll be surprised on what kind of difference it's going to make with your training, just how you feel. You know how when we were 20 something years old, we had that, you know what I mean? I'm not saying I want to feel like that, but I kind of do. But being at this age, and it feels really nice to have that energy, and feels like I'm leading instead of following. You know what I mean? So I would highly recommend that you check your testosterone. Make sure that they check the free testosterone as well. And whenever you get that, let me take a look at that, because I can give you some really good information on that. I've got some stuff that I've been doing now for some time that's a game changer.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, sounds good.
Among other things. Hey, man, listen, I really appreciate your time coming on. I think you've given it's good that you come on and they see it from your side and where you're at. And then we'll just keep following you along the way on our podcast.
Okay, I appreciate it, Leo.
Okay, Brian. Thank you very much, sir. Me as well. I'll talk to you soon again, okay? Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, Leo.
Bye. Ciao.
Thanks for listening to the Serious Growth Podcast. For more episodes like the one you just listened to, subscribe to us on your mobile podcast app and leave us a review. If you'd like to reach out, you can find us online at seriousgrowth.com. Until next time, train smart and train hard.